Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger, up next on the GM pre-draft AFC rankings and draft predictions. Do me a quick favor, hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Let's talk about it. So, we're going to be talking about the top 8 teams as we are on Thursday, April 25th. This is in consideration of what has happened up until this point in the offseason. So, I believe the number 8 team right now in the AFC is the Buffalo Bills. They're kind of that team who, with a win or a loss at the end of the season, could make the playoffs or get left out of the playoffs. This is no disrespect to Buffalo. This is no disrespect to what they got going on up there, but they had major renovations up in Buffalo, uh, getting rid of, moving on from, however you want to say it, some stalwarts defensively, and then also moving on from Stephon Diggs. And no matter what you think about Stephon Diggs, he is and was a top receiver in this league. When you pull his numbers over the last 4 seasons, he's averaged over 1,200 yards per season and upwards of 85 plus catches. So when you lose that kind of weaponry offensively and those kind of staples defensively, you can only take a slide back. So Buffalo ended the season last year with the number 2 seed in the AFC. I think they slide back to number 8. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to stay there. That just means pre draft, that's where I have them ranked. What I believe they'll do on draft night, I think that you will see Buffalo make a big trade tonight. I do believe that. I believe they're going to go after one of the wide receivers who are available. Specifically, I think they may go after T. Higgins and or Brandon Ayuk. There is no way they move on from Stephon Diggs but not have a plan to make some moves to replace him. I also think they'll draft a wide receiver or two in this draft. So stay tuned, man, for this updated list. But I have Buffalo at number 8. When we move up to number 7, we're going to slot in the Cleveland Browns right here at this point. This is no disrespect to Cleveland. Cleveland played rock solid last year, all year, with or without Deshaun Watson. And so when you look at what Cleveland did this offseason, they added Jerry Judy through a trade. They didn't lose much offensively or defensively. And so I think that I only have them sliding back because they have a huge question at quarterback. Um, I do think that Tyler Huntley could be an integral part of this team, depending on what the health of Deshaun Watson is. Uh, Tyler Huntley is a solid backup, but I think that he could be an even better starter in Cleveland than he was in Baltimore. Well, why would I say that? Well, Tyler Huntley is going to be playing with better offensive weapons than he ever had in Baltimore, right? And Cleveland is going to clearly be a run first team, just like the Ravens. So if Tyler Huntley, all he has to do is turn around and hand the ball off to Chubb, I think they will draft a running back in this draft as well. So if he all he has to do is turn it off and hand it off, and then when he looks up, he's throwing to Cooper or Judy or Elijah Moore. I think they also add a wide receiver in this draft. I think that he'll be okay. He's playing behind a solid offensive line. This is a deep offensive line class. So I do think that Cleveland is a playoff team right now. And that's just based on they're going to bring that defense to the field every night. They're going to play you tough. And they're not going to beat themselves. You're going to have to beat them. And if what you've seen from Joe Flacco was any sign of who they are as a team, I think Tyler Huntley and a combination of Deshaun Watson could lead this team back to the playoffs. I have them slotted in at number 7. When we move up to number 6, I have the Cincinnati Bengals there. Again, no disrespect to the AFC North foe. I just have them slotted in because they have some uncertainty that they're going to figure out, I think, tonight. I think that when you look at the Bengals, they did bring in a couple of defensive pieces, Geno Stone and Von Bell, a guy who knows the defense and a guy who can quickly learn the defense. So I think they're better there. They switched out running backs, moving on from Joe Mixon, bringing in Zach Moss. I'm not sure if that's better or worse, but they did make that switch. And I think the big question is who trades for T. Higgins tonight? I did associate him with Buffalo earlier. I think that Buffalo is on the table. I think the Carolina Panthers may be on the table as well for T. Higgins, and then there may be a surprise team who comes out the T. Higgins. But I do think that he gets moved tonight, and so that creates a big question for the Bengals. So why would I have them as high as 6? Well, I have them as high as 6 because they're going to get their quarterback back in 2024 healthy. At least that's what is expected. And so if you just add him back, you have Jamar Chase. The offense line is going to get better. I believe they're going to add some pieces in this draft, and I think that you will have a better version of Cincinnati. You saw what they did last season when Joe Burrow went down. They still was tough. They still were competitive, and they were right on that fringe of making the playoffs. So I have them slotted in at number 6. As we move up to number 5, unfortunately, I have to be honest, I have the Baltimore Ravens slotted in at number 5. And I'm gonna talk a little more about the Ravens when I get done with all the rankings, but I have them slotted at 5 just simply based on loss, right? When you consider just what we've lost, offensively, 3 of the 5 offensive starters we lost. We lost a wide receiver in Odell Beckham, and he could be a plus or a minus when and moving on from him. That remains to be seen. We have when we go to the defense side of the ball, when you lose Jadeveon Clowney, one of the number one edge rushers from last year on the team, when you lose Patrick Queen, when you lose Geno Stone, when you lose Ronald Darby, you can't have that loss and remain at number 2 behind the Chiefs and or number 1 as they finished last year. You just can't. This is no discredit to Lamar Jackson and what he can do. This is no discredit to Roquan Smith and what they can do on defense. But you can't have that kind of loss with no replacement and then uh, stay in that same spot. Yes, we got some fill-in parts, but those are questions. We don't know what they're going to do. Okay, and so I have the Baltimore Ravens slotted in at number 5. I think in this draft, the Baltimore Ravens will go into the offensive line a couple of different times. I think they'll draft at least one tackle and one guard, but I would like to see them double dip at tackle just to provide some depth for sure. I think they do get a wide receiver. Don't know where they'll pick that wide receiver. I think they'll go get a cornerback. And I think somewhere in this draft, maybe fifth, fourth or fifth round, I think they grab a safety and a defensive tackle. Whatever else they do, I'm unsure of. I know that they will get a running back probably late third or fourth round, only because John Harbaugh has already said, EDC has already said that they will take a running back in this draft. Hopefully that's Braylon Allen or Jalen Wright. So Baltimore Ravens slots in at number 5. When we move up, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers slotted in at number 4. Now, why would I put Pittsburgh above Baltimore? Well, just flat out, Pittsburgh is better coached. Let's just call it what it is. When you have a coach who has never had a losing season, um, when you have a coach who or a team, excuse me, who will fight every single game, you know that you're going to be in. No matter what it looks like at quarterback, no matter what it looks like on the defense, who's in, who's out, you know you're going to get a fight from Pittsburgh. And so what Pittsburgh was able to do is, no matter what you think about Russell Wilson, he's better than Kenny Pickett, right? And then they went out and said, hey, let's get Justin Fields too, right? And so if Russell Wilson falls on his face, Justin Fields does have the ability. He's a starter in this league. He was on point to break Lamar Jackson's rushing record for a quarterback until he got hurt. And now Justin Fields is with a better team overall. And you guys know this to be true. We've always struggled with mobile quarterbacks, and nobody gets more mobile than Justin Fields, than Lamar Jackson, right? And so I think that he's going to be a factor in this season. I know they traded away Deontay Johnson. They moved on from Allen Robinson, if I remember correctly. So it's just George Pickens right now. But who drafts wide receivers better than Pittsburgh? Nobody. And so I think Pittsburgh. Oh, wait a minute before I go draft prediction. And then on defense, they added Patrick Queen. They got a depth piece in Dante Jackson, who has a lot of speed, veteran leader, and then they also picked up Deshaun Elliott. So you see a lot of Ravens popping up over in Pittsburgh, and so they're a better defense, right? And they're better offensively, just having switched out the quarterback. And so in this draft, I predict they go into the wide receiver grouping at least twice. I think they add some more offensive line depth, and then I think they add some rotational pieces defensively. So I'm slotting Pittsburgh in at number 4. Um, and so when you think about Baltimore's losses, Pittsburgh's gains, you got to consider that they are the more complete team at this point. So I'm going with them at number 4. Number 3, I'm going with the New York Jets. Just simply, the New York Jets fought hard in every game last season. Their trouble was quarterback, and so when you move on from Zach Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers should be coming into this season healthy. We know that he was basically ready to go the end of last season. So when you have another 9 months, 10 months to get well, I think he comes into this season much better. When you see what they tried to do, a lot of offensive line make improvements. In fact, you could say they called Baltimore for that. They picked up Baltimore's left guard. I can't even call his name right now. And then they traded for Morgan Moses. They signed Tyron Smith, and they're going to go into this draft, and they're going to pick up a couple of these good offensive linemen. So the offense will be better, more solid. They added Mike Williams, right? Um, and so if he's healthy, you have another number one type wide receiver on this roster, and that's just offense. And we already know what they do defensively. They're rock solid defensively, and they're going to add some pieces defensively. So I think they're going to be ready to roll, and they're going to be a tough team to beat, especially if Rodgers is healthy. So that's what I have for the Jets. Number 3, the number 2 seed I have as the Houston Texans. Houston finished last year in a flurry, claiming the AFC South. I think they are the best team in that AFC South, and I think they're better than they were when they ended the season last year. Adding Danielle Hunter is a big time deal, so now they have bookend edge rushers. They added some veterans in the middle in D'Amico Autry, and they added a veteran linebacker, so that defense is going to be better. The secondary is going to have one more offseason to gel together. And then when you look at the offense, uh, um, CJ Stroud broke all the rookie passing records, and so and he was missing his one of his better receivers. So now when you add Stephon Diggs to that group with Nico Collins, with Tank Dell, they're going to be a hard team to stop. And then they have a veteran that they can hand it off to in um, Joe Mixon. And then they have a whole litany of draft picks. So they're going to get deeper and better. I have to slot them in at the number 2 team right now. And of course, the champs, Kansas City Chiefs, are the number 1 seed right now, the number 1 team in the AFC. And there's nothing to say about this team. They did pick up Marquise Hollywood Brown this offseason. Um, I think that the Rasheed Rice issue, I think that's going to be null and void. I think he'll get suspended. I think he'll miss 6 to 8 games, but he will come back in the middle of the season. I believe that's just going to be like a mid-season free agent pickup. Right, that's how that's going to seem to them. A guy who already knows the offense, a guy who can come in and just be a plug and play guy at that point. I think you'll see Kansas City go into this wide receiver grouping a couple of times, add some young talent. I think you'll see them tap into this offensive line grouping. I think you'll see them get a cornerback as they moved on from L'Jarius Sneed. But you can't knock Kansas City, down, because they're the champs. And so in order to be the man, you have to beat the man. So those are my AFC rankings, man. Let me know what you guys want me to know, man, about the rankings. I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and we are out.